Let's start at the beginning for you. You have had a very remarkable career, and you had a very interesting start. All of these kids want to know how you started. You began as a child performer, and I know that as a very small child, you were in New York. You had just come from Puerto Rico. Your English was not so good. You were with your mama.
What English?
What English?
I didn't speak English.
Had no English at all.
Yeah.
So performing became the way that you lived.
My mom and I lived in a little ghetto apartment in the Hispanic ghetto. And see, I see a lot of faces going, yeah. That's right. Look at this one. He's going. Anyway, we lived in this teeny weeny little apartment, and a friend of my mom's who was a Spanish dancer, whose name was Irene Lopez, Irene Lopez, saw me wiggling my booty around in the living room. I was dancing to music, and Irene said to my mom, she should take dance lessons. She said, she just looks like she has something special. And my mom said, great, what do we do? And Irene took me to her dance teacher. Now, Irene was a Spanish dancer, flamenco and that kind of thing. You know, and I learned to do Spanish dance. That's what I first learned to do. West Side Story, which came much, much, much later, was about another kind of dancing, completely different thing. But that's how I got started.
And when you were very, very small, you were performing. Did you continue to perform? You had that first performance. You continued all the way through performing.
Yeah.
Never stopped.
I performed everywhere that I could. Now, you know, where does a young child, especially in those days, remember, there were no children's theaters.
No.
There was nothing even remotely like that.
Or a performing arts high school like the one we have here, nothing.
No, nothing like that existed. And I would just dance wherever somebody asked me to dance. I performed at Jewish weddings.
You're at a bar mitzvah, too.
I did bar mitzvahs, that's right. I performed wherever somebody said, we need some free performers, you know, who won't charge anything. Actually, I think the first money I ever made was at one of the Jewish weddings. It was $10, and I was thrilled to pieces.
See, that's money, though.
Yeah.
There you go. So when you were going to school, you were performing. How did being a performer help you as you went through school, or did it?
When I was in public school, I used to I used to perform at almost all every Friday was assembly day. I don't think they even have that anymore in school, do they? No.
Not really.
Assembly was, you know, we'd all gather in the big hall, which had a stage in the public school, and somebody would put on a show. Somebody from the school itself, so they put on a local show, and inevitably I would be asked to dance, and inevitably I would do the Mexican hat dance.
Oh. Over and over
every
again.
time.
Oh no, over and over.
And you know, they'd see me with the big Mexican hat on and the shiny skirt, and say, "Oh God, Rosita's back."
And you were Rosita then.
I was Rosita. My true name is Rosa Dolores Alverio. And that was changed many years later when I became a contract player at MGM Studios. But that's what I did. And I spent, you know, my life doing Assembly Fridays and wherever I was asked to perform. You'd be amazed. It's interesting how many gigs I actually did as a kid. Yeah. And my mom and I made the costumes. My mom sewed them and I put the sequins on. So to this day, I'm very good at beadwork and sequins. I can do that.
You can do that. Well,
what
you learn early is what you keep.
Yeah, huh?
What you learn early is what you keep.
I guess.
Yeah. What you must learn is what you keep. Maybe closer to it.
That's it.
As a student, were there any kind of dance classes, or any kind of musical classes, any choruses in school that you participated in?
I remember I was in chorus in public school, and we had a horrible, nasty woman named...
Unlike Northwest School of the Arts.
I hope so, for your sakes. She's a nasty lady named Mrs. Diamond. We never even knew her first name.
Oh. Mm.
And she'd say things like, "You, come over here." I mean, she was really awful. And she would embarrass the child, and then the child, you know, would go back about 3 feet shorter.
Oh no!
Back to their position. And I did attend the Spanish dance class, and then I began to branch out with my dancing, and I began to take ballet and tap And that was my background in dance. Spanish dance came first. Then it turns out really the ballet is a great, great foundation for dancing. It sort of really prepares you for all other kinds of dancing. And tap I did because I was just very good at that, in as much as I did all that footwork with Spanish dancing.
Right.
To this day, I'm still very good at that.
Let's talk some about all of your different talents. I have a question that came from one of these kids out here, and they want to know, is it difficult to have so very many talents? You're an actress, you're a singer, you're a dancer, and this question comes from Latasha, who is in the 8th grade. Is it hard to balance all of your talents?
Latasha, where are you?
Latasha, is there
Hi. Is it difficult? No. It saved my life because I can do everything. I mean, I do everything but juggle, and I'm working on that. No, it's what really has given my career an enormous longevity. It's why probably I'm still here, where a lot of people my age are long gone and disappeared. Because when I run out of work in the movies, there's always television. When there's no television, I can do theater. I do comedy, I do drama. And see, that's the difference between, I think, young performers nowadays than performers when I was a kid. When I was a kid, you had to do everything. Mm-hmm. It was taken for granted that you could dance, that you could sing, you could be funny, you could be dramatic. You just did. And nowadays, like with law and medicine, everyone specializes. And I remember there's an interesting story about Linda Ronstadt when she was doing The Pirates of Penzance in New York, which was, it's all musical. It's a very funny Gilbert and Sullivan operetta. And she had one tiny little speaking part in one place in the play. I mean, she had a big lead and she sang all of it. But when it came time to speak those lines, she couldn't do it. She was so shy and so frightened of actually speaking lines that she made them put the lines into music. And they wrote a special little tiny song with these 4 lines so she could sing the lines rather than speak them. That's really called specializing.
Oh, no kidding.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, because she's such a versatile singer. You would think she
wonderful.
could do other things.
She's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people really just say, no, that's what I do, I sing. And actors very often say, well, I act. And that's a shame, because they're missing out on a lot of great stuff.
So would you tell these kids that it's a good thing to...
Oh, it's a very important thing. I think it's extremely important for young actors and actresses to take some kind of dance, because it's amazing how many clumsy actors there are in this world, including very famous ones. Very famous ones.
In your early days, you were really typecast in the kind of roles that you did. Talk about some of the roles.
Well, in
the early
those
roles.
days, you know, I keep having to say those days because I'm so much older than you guys are. They still had some westerns, you know, cowboy and Indian kind of movies. It was sort of the end of that era, but they still had some. And I was always cast as the little Spanish Spitfire. You know, if it was a Western, I was Lolita Conchita, God knows what all. And she had to talk like this, you know? And she said, do you think you can fool Lolita? Which is funny now, but you know, I really aspired to better things, and it broke my heart. It really broke my heart that every time I got a job, it was always one of those, or I was playing an Indian maiden. And you know, I don't even know what kind of accent I assumed for that, because I didn't know how Indian maidens spoke. American Indian is what I'm talking about.